Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Ay, still not understanding.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Lene, and if you're new here, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that notification bell to the right, so that way you're notified every time I drop a new video. Now, y'all, I want to thank you guys so much for pouring into my first video in a minute. It's been a while since I stepped away from YouTube. So to be back and to share a journey, to share my journey and how personal it was, and to be able to have a vulnerable space and have people comment their stories, and for us to be able to curate and create a space that allowed you guys to be vulnerable with me too, is definitely something that I could have only dreamed for. And the fact that I'm making it reality is amazing. So thank you guys so much for pouring into my video. Today is not going to be as serious, but I will be giving you guys some tips. As y'all can see by the title of this video, I will be talking about how to stay grounded when life gets messy. Y'all, I know I'm not the only one going through it right now. Like, life is lifing to the max right now. Like, it's feeling like I'm getting beat over the head with a shovel, okay? Like, 1 minute you're coasting, life is cool, you're making good money, you feel like, adulting might not be that bad. But in the next minute, you're getting hit over the head with bills and responsibilities, and it just doesn't feel like adulting is fun. Like, adulting ain't fun right now. But don't trip. We're going to talk about how to stay grounded when life is coming for your edges. So first things first, let's start off by acknowledging things are not how they used to be. The older generation, like the baby boomers, and I can't remember the generation underneath the baby boomers, but those two generations love to compare themselves to millennials and Gen Z. We can't relate to y'all, and y'all can't relate to us. Now let's talk about how the older generation loves to hit us with the, you guys ain't doing nothing. Or when I was your age, I had these many degrees. Or when I was your age, I was buying my first house. Or can we talk about how y'all first house was 2 pennies and a nickel? Like, let's be all the way for real. In this economy, buying a house, like, you can't even get a 3-bedroom house anymore without it being $500,000. Like, we are not living in the same struggles. And not to knock y'all struggles, y'all went through what y'all went through, but stop comparing y'all lives to ours. Like, can we talk about how buying a house is almost the equivalent of finding a unicorn? Let's stop trying to live up to our parents' standards and start living for ourselves, okay? Give yourself grace, because things are different. It's just not realistic to obtain the things they obtained at the age they attained it. So cut yourself some slack. So tip number 1, celebrate your small wins. Every day you're not gonna reach your biggest lifetime goal, okay? Like, that's just not realistic at all. But celebrate the little wins that you do have. Like, are you able to pay your bills on time? Yeah, you might not be able to have them on auto pay. Like, I think I got 1 bill on auto pay, but you're able to pay your bills. That's a win. And still have some money left over to go take yourself out to go get something to eat. I think sometimes we focus on the bigger picture, like, what kind of car am I driving? What kind of house do I live in? Is my apartment luxury? But first and foremost, do you have a way to get around? So, like, yeah, it may not be the newest car, but do you have a car? Is that car paid off? Is it able to get you to point A to point B without you having to call somebody? Do you have to rely on somebody to get you to point A to point B? Are you able to get yourself nice things from time to time? Like, no, you might not be able to buy yourself the newest Louis Vuittons or the new Telfar or whatever the heck is trending nowadays, but you're able to go to the mall and get you a t-shirt. You're able to get you a new pair of jeans. After you, let's say you take $20 to $30 out of every check and you just spend it on yourself. You do something nice for yourself. After a while, that starts to add up, and then boom, you obtain so much. Then instead of just waiting on that one instant moment where I might be able to have $500-$600 left over so I could do this big thing, I might be able to save this amount of dollars to get my dream car. Instead of just focusing on that, like, yeah, that's all cool. Focus on the little things that you do have. And those little things start to add up. And that's really what's important. Once you, like, I definitely understand what our parents meant when they really used to say, I don't have it. Baby, we do not have it. And we're not going to have it all the time. And that is okay. Let's stop trying to live these unrealistic realities. Like, honestly, that social media influencer you're trying to emulate, they probably not living that life either. They're probably renting. They probably don't own those cars that they have. They probably lease them. Like, you don't know what that person's life is outside of social media or that camera that's in front of me. You don't know. So stop trying to compare your life to somebody else's and live your own life. Tip number 2, protect your peace like you protect them edges. And what I mean by that, you wouldn't do anything that would rip out your edges, right? You would try to do everything in your power to protect these edges. Cause what? They don't grow back as fast as they used to. And 2, you ain't trying to be walking around here looking crazy. So if you can protect your edges, I need you to start protecting your peace in the same way. Mental health is huge in our generation because we're finally talking about it. Like, this is something our parents and our grandparents never talked about. It was just passed down trauma from generation to generation to generation. And now here we are as a new generation, and we're talking about mental health. We're talking about our feelings. We're talking about how we want to make things better for the next generation. And because we're having these conversations, we have to start setting boundaries. Say it with me. Boundaries are self-care. Tip number 2. Is it 2? Tip number 3. Ask for help. Ask for help. This is something that I struggle with. I'd rather do it all by myself. Struggle, cry, get frustrated, throw a fit, and still wake up the next day and decide to do it by myself. It is impossible to be able to do everything on your own. It's okay if you need help understanding how to create content. It's okay if you need help trying to understand how to buy a house. It's okay if you need help with your kids this week. Ask. I think we as millennials are traumatized because we watch our parents do it by themselves. They were too prideful to ask somebody for help. They thought like, oh, I could do it on my own, or I don't want this person in my business, or I don't need their help. I'll do it on my own. And we adapted that. But it's time to make a change, baby, because in order to get further in life, you need help. So there's a saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. Okay. And then within that same right, it should take a village to help each other. Like, if we all just lean on one another, we all have a skill. We're so self-absorbed into our own lives, we don't even make ourselves open enough to create and be help for someone else. And we're not open enough to receive the help when it starts to come. So tip number, I think this is 4, taking time for self-care. Self-care is different for everyone. So no, you don't have to necessarily sit in a bubble bath, get a massage, or, do the stereotypical, put on a face mask, do the stereotypical form of self-care. But self-care can look like taking a moment to take a breath. Like, life is moving fast. And a lot of times we're on autopilot. So we're just going through our day and not even thinking about ourselves. We're just thinking about the next thing we have to do. So how about you just take a moment to take a breath? Like, take a deep breath. Take a moment and sit outside, away from your phone, away from TV, away from distractions, your friends, and just take 10 minutes to sit outside in nature, cancel out every single thought, and just be. Just be still. Those bills still gonna be there. Yeah, you gotta cook dinner. That's still gonna happen. You gonna make it to bed on time. Everything is still gonna go as planned. But take 10 minutes to yourself so that way you can rebalance. There can be so many curveballs being thrown at you in one day. And just taking 10 minutes to release, to let go, to not think about all the things that you got to think about, all the things that you got to do is really healing. And I don't think people understand that. Watching TV, yeah, I'm all for mindless fun. I love a good movie. I love watching a good show. But also pouring into things that don't distract you is just as needed. So go for a walk in the park. Go for a hike. If you know how to swim, go for a swim. Or just take 10 minutes to yourself. If you're a mom, lock yourself in the bathroom. Tell your husband, tell your boyfriend, tell your anybody who's listening, hey, I need 10 minutes. And I promise you, I started doing this. You'll start to see a difference in your attitude. You'll start to see a difference in how you feel, especially when life starts to become overwhelming. And life is overwhelming for us all right now. But we can't control that. One thing we can control is ourselves. So take a moment, breathe, be still, refocus, reshift, and get back out there. And y'all, I wanted to add a bonus tip in there. And this is a tip that I have to learn myself. Learning how to say no without guilt. So no, that doesn't mean that every time somebody comes and asks you for something or asks for your help, you say no. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, if you're a person that always says yes, even when you start to feel like your cup is running over, it's time for you to say no. So if you're already piled up with a lot of work from your job or school, if you already have a lot of responsibilities at home, if you already been helping like people all this week and you're at the point where you're about to explode, you gotta say no, and you can't feel bad about it. This is something that I struggle with. I'll say yes, 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 yes until I can't say yes anymore. And then I start turning passive aggressive. I start having an attitude with the very last person that I told yes. And that's because I'm draining myself. I'm overly trying to please every single body and never taking time to please myself. I can only pour into your cup if my cup is not running over. If my cup is running over and I'm drowning, how can I pick myself back up and pour into your cup? I can't do that. So I have to take time to say no and be okay with that no. This is a quick little story. When I was going to have surgery, I think it was a week out. I was having surgery and I was freaking out because surgery is, I don't know. I had surgery before when I was younger. And then when I became an adult, something about surgery just freaked me out. Like the fact that I know that you can possibly not wake up, that right there alone had me frantic. So a week out before surgery, I told myself I was going to take a break. I was going to relax. I was going to chill. So that week I had made some promises. Like I remember I said I had to do my friend's hair for her baby shower. I'd help another friend with a baby shower. She was doing decorations. I had to, it was a couple of things I had to do. And I just kept saying yes. Like people were coming up to me and I was just saying, yeah. So it gets to the nitty gritty. It's about 2 days out before my surgery. And my boyfriend is like, didn't you say you were going to take a week off before your surgery? Get your mind at ease. But here you are getting up every day, showing up for everybody, but you're not taking time to show for yourself. And I got offended. I was like, yeah, I am. But I made these prior engagements and these promises and I want to keep them. I want to be a woman of my word. I don't want to like bail out on anyone. And he was like, you choosing to be there for everybody else, you're bailing out on yourself. And I was like, dang, okay. So I told my friend, I think this was my last thing I had to do on my long list of things. I told her I couldn't do her hair, and I felt terrible. Like, I just felt so guilty because I told her I could do it. It's 2 days before her baby shower. And it's like, dang, like, who's going to do it? Like, I felt terrible. Like, I wanted to cry. At that point, I had to prioritize me because at the end of the day, I was about to have surgery. To not put myself first in a moment that was as big as that was very selfish to myself. So me saying no, y'all, oh my gosh, like I felt terrible. But it was something that I needed to do because being on my feet for 3 or 4 hours doing hair, knowing that I got to be under the needle in 2 days was just not the smartest decision, especially where my mental state was. It was terrible. Like I was freaking out, on the verge of crying every day. So me just saying no and releasing the guilt that came with that. And I say this story to say, moving forward, before I even get myself in a position where I've made all these promises that I cannot keep, I have to start saying no and be okay with that. Because if I don't show up for me, like who gonna show up for you better than you? And if you ain't showing up for yourself, you can't expect anybody else to show up for you. So yeah, say no without guilt. So yeah, y'all, life be lifing. And we don't have to let it take us out. So remember, these small tips, if you just do one of the 5 tips I've given you, whether that's protecting your peace, celebrating your small wins, practicing gratitude, I don't know why I can't say this word, practicing self-care, taking time to breathe and be still. If you do any of these things, I promise you, life won't feel as hard as it is. So don't let life whoop y'all, because it's whooping some of us. It got some of us in the chokehold. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Please share this video with a friend that you feel like is going through it and they just feel like they can't get their head above water. Just let them know that they're not alone. We all are going through it in one way or another. You just got to keep faith alive, keep praying, keep acknowledging God. Do the work, do everything you need to do, stay righteous, and everything will work out in your favor. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.